Just a heads up, I'm venting here, so be prepared. I did not enjoy the season, and I'll explain why. It had nothing to do with the actors, but the storyline and how it was carried out by the powers that be of the show. On many occasions, it made no sense. If these were average characters who weren't portrayed to have above average intelligence in the first season, then everything that went down this second season would have made sense. I disliked the way the storyline would go sometimes and how specific scenes were displayed. I say this with respect, but with my whole chest. I get no satisfaction in saying it was underwhelming. I had high expectations and was filled with excitement for this second season for the past 2 years, only for me to be left disappointed. We have amazing actors here, and it felt like the writers, director, producers, and whoever else was in charge of this season chose to waste them. Let me break it down. We all know of the concept of collecting cards from the first season, right? Those cards being left at the end of each game somewhere to collect, and our dude had them. We can forget all that, toss it right out the window and lock it, because all that season 1 stuff about the games and the landscape of this game world means nothing now. The game masters, aka the show makers, decided everything be redone and season 1 be being void. I could get over this easily. However, for it to go from game to game in the first season, but in the beginning of the second season, it did not. The first 4 episodes worked multiple games, but barely 2. The King of Spades game that we are introduced in the first episode isn't even completed, nor do they have to register for it. No rules about the game were explained, and I guess it meant that the game master of it had no rules, so registration was not required or something. They just drive out of the territory to another game, but those other games they have to register for. They had to register for all of the card games, but the King of Spades one is excluded. They were just jumped unannounced. Okay, I was keeping up with it though, but then we are literally left in the 3rd episode about another game with my dude, but we don't see how it ends until the next episode, and that's kind of how it goes with a lot of this storytelling. Leave off an episode with one game so that makes you go to the next episode to see how it ends, but I could have gotten over it if they didn't do it again. So what do? The first few episodes of the second season had the MCs learn absolutely nothing. Then my phase of this show, the fact that they were all either shot or stabbed except Arisu was trifling, and I was just... In episode 7, he goes, Arisu, to set up a trap for the King of Spades, but decided to keep a weapon he didn't need that his team could have used. It's the fact that they had them prior to the scene lined up, saying they had weapons, but 2 of the women were without them. It showed Anne, who literally worked for law enforcement, having a smaller gun than Arisu. They had a whole fight scene handling things without Arisu. Why couldn't they use his weapon? Why act as if Arisu isn't smart, nor Anne? Anne was one of the heads at the beach. They could have shot from high ground. 2 to 3 from the windows or high places. We saw them literally perched at high places to shoot him from. Shooting downward where they would be safer with the big guy and maybe Anne face to face to him in the alley. Of hitting him from high ground and low ground. Everyone taking aim and getting this dude clean and simple. There were cars literally there that they could hotwire or at least push together into him from the back to hide under the car and shoot him in the legs so that he couldn't move. Place the explosive in the engine or gas tank and boom, he done for. Everything else was silly. This strategy of theirs was so trash. As I watched, I didn't understand this. The guy was still alive after being blown up. The guy had to get up bleeding from the head to take him out, to even get him into the trap, finish him off. The characters were portrayed as too strategic and too smart for this load of mess. The fact they didn't get his bomb explosive from his so-called corpse, they were literally 2 seconds from it, if Arisu was being honest. I'm jumping episodes to this scene because that's how they set this entire season up. They dragged out unimportant dialogue and material from the manga while jumping, fast-forwarding, skipping the important material from the manga. For example, we literally see a scene of Arisu and Usagi friendly around, failing to catch a bunny. In addition, there were so many loose ends of season 1, and yet they decided to waste screen time showing them trying to frail around rather than answer those questions. Nevertheless, I did some research, and compared to the manga, the show is more discreet. They knew what to exclude. I'll give them that. However, I desired that they excluded more to focus on the best parts of the manga or the story overall. For example, this guy in the game with the nudist, he could have used his 10,000 points, had taken his hand rather than Tata's hand. Tata didn't deserve to go out as much as this guy had. Facts. This dude, though, is my greatest beef with this season. The fact he tried to justify attempting harming my fave, Usagi, by bringing up his own bullying in the real world. You get attacked in the real world by men, so your first instinct is to harm women? Disgusting to the highest power. Plus, I couldn't stand when Arisu didn't shoot him when he had the chance. Arisu failed to him not once, but twice, leading the lowlife who aspired to harm her prior to take a shot at her. Then my guy gets shot. No. it was a big no for me. He literally had his handmade bomb he could have used to throw at him. He could have used his own gun that was given to him. Won't. The writers tried to make her seem defenseless once again and unable to evade bullets as she did in the first season of the game with the horse heads. She outran the King of Spades machine gun multiple times. It was even showed after this scene, but she couldn't outrun his gun. They did that a lot this season, doing this to her as if they wanted to redeem Arisu by placing her in situations where she needed saving to justify the amount of times she had no choice but to save him, as if repaying him back, as if she wasn't stronger mentally and physically than Arisu. Saving her was the least he could do since he messes up multiple times in this season or places her in danger in the first place with his hesitation all the time. I wanted to talk about the directing and orchestration of everything. The transitions between scenes, the way it would black out to a blank screen and just like that was beyond the scope of my understanding. The first few times this happened, I excused it. I reached a point when it couldn't be excused any longer. I counted how long a blank screen was, and it was practically 5 seconds or more. Do you know how much happened sometimes in the show within 5 seconds? But that's nothing compared to the flashbacks. Certain flashbacks weren't needed. They made this mistake in the first season and did the same for this one. For instance, with the film footage they showed twice. Flashbacks aren't meant to pause the story, but it's seen that most of the flashbacks in here did whenever they showed up. They showed us flashbacks of the first season, unnecessary and boring. So I felt that they purposely wasted time like this. That or they were messing around. Archery girl was cool. I didn't really mind her. I excused stuff based on her youth depiction. She was smarter than she looked. Didn't mind flashbacks of her, but showing the spike in her leg wasn't necessary. We didn't need to see her pull it out like that. We didn't need to see Arisu smash Tata's hand. We need to cue the quick transitions. Don't make a scene of suffering so long and graphic. It takes up time that can be used to move the story along. The last 20 minutes of the season, beef with that, yes, but I was given the explanation for this world I waited 2 years for, so I was satisfied. I encourage people after the first 2 eps, or just the first episode, to skip to the last 25 minutes of the finale. Don't waste your time with the in-between. Great actors, but terrible orchestration. We had peak false advertising with certain things they show in the trailer, like this scene here. I saw fun games not being conveyed properly. They dragged out certain games while keeping interesting looking ones short. How many times do we see these two paired up? Or we'll see. Close to 0 times, because they are separated for the majority of the season. I can't convey the mass amount of disappointment I have for this season because they knew what they were doing. There were many moments when it gave me what I wanted, which is why I'm beefing so hard with this season, because they know better. My dude couldn't even save this show, but he was one of the highlights. But I wanted to see him in more than simply 2 games. Plus, if he's gonna get shot in glory. We get no additional flashbacks with him besides his life in the real world, but not how he met her, not him waking up in the real world to talk with like they did. Instead, he talks with this loser. No, I have no other words. We don't ever see them reunite once they part in the first episode, ever. And I just really believe it's just the way the story was told. It was the way it was directed. I didn't like it. I knew it could have been better. I could have done better. I say this with boldness. I could have with no professional experience in the industry of film. It's no question. There was loose ends that weren't tied up in here from the first season. For instance, horse gunmen that weren't ever mentioned. They had collars. Were they forced to do that as Arisu assumed? What about at the end of the last season when everyone was taken out in the room? All those game masters that was in that one room Arisu and them stumbled upon. Why were they taken out? If they were citizens, they were all game masters who ran that one specific game on the beach, like with the nudist and his band. For a series, every season is meant to be better than the last, which this wasn't. I'm going to share my hypothesis. They purposely made the season bad because they wanted to end the show with only 2 seasons. For there to be no season 3, they did it on purpose, prolonging things toward a half-cooked ending. Overall, for the most part, this season was a complete waste of my time. The material they gave, along with prolonging things, could have been shortened to 4 episodes. I'd rather 4 eps than for them to waste my time like this. Because no, this was not it. It's a 3 out of 10 for me. Hate this season. And that's just my take on it, but feel free to leave comments about your own perception of this and how you felt about it. That's all for today. Stay tuned.